All righty.
Okay, me, yes?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. I am Mark Anthony Lord, and I am a spiritual counselor. I am a minister, a New Thought minister, and I have been in 12-step recovery since I was 24 years old. So I'm looking at 30 years of time in the 12-step programs. I've spent a lot of years working as a spiritual counselor at treatment centers in Los Angeles, Malibu, and also doing workshops and giving talks at conferences across the country, at churches, different places, 12-step communities, 12-step conferences, conventions, as well as treatment centers. So I'm super happy to be a part of this amazing new program. It really is, I'm inspired by it. I've known Rob Weiss for many, many years. I just really admire him and his work and his dedication to creating such a healing wave all around the globe. And it's just nice to be a part of it.
Well, we all are excited that you are part of it, but I know Dr. Rob was talking about that and really wanted you to be part of this whole community. So we're excited to kick this off tonight.
Yeah, awesome. So should I just dive in?
Please do.
Okay, wonderful. So the format, it'll gel and get more clear as we go each week. But my intention is, as Tammy began to mention, was to really do some kind of teaching around spirituality in relationship to recovery, in relationship to our healing journey around addiction. We'll always start with some kind of a centering or meditation practice, even just a minute or two, just to practice that, because it's such a necessary component of our recovery. And we'll do some kind of experience after I do some talking and a teaching component. And then, as was mentioned, we'll move into some sharing, and then again close our being together with a time of being in the silence and getting reconnected with our higher power. So why don't we try beginning with that, our time of meditation. I invite you to join me if it's comfortable, if you're able to. If you're listening or you're not able to close your eyes, by all means, just hang out and focus on your breathing. But if you can, I invite you to close your eyes, which allows us to take our attention off of the external world. And then as we put our attention on the breath, we pull our focus inward. So I invite you to take nice, slow, deep breaths and imagine that inhale going all the way down to the base of the spine, feeling the body expand. And as you exhale, imagine the body relaxing and actually growing a little bit taller. So the muscles are just hanging on the bones, nice and easy. Breathe in again through the nose. Nice, slow inhale, reaching down to the base of the spine. And exhale. And I'm going to invite you to allow your attention to go to the center of your head. And we're going to imagine that this is the seat of the mind, the thought system that thinks and thinks all day long and can drive us crazy sometimes. Place your attention there. Imagine breathing up into your head. And as you exhale, imagine all thoughts disappearing like mice in the kitchen when the cat walks in. They just scurry away. And just have a peaceful mind. I invite you to allow your attention to float down below your rib cage and your solar plexus, kind of between your ribs and your stomach, right there in the middle. And it is said that the solar plexus is the seat of the feeling body, your emotions. And as you breathe in, notice if you have any emotions that are present, perhaps a little anxiousness or tiredness, some upset, sadness, some fear. Everything's welcome here. Just welcome it, notice it. Take a nice deep breath and see if on the exhale you can invite those feelings to just relax. So our mind is calmer, Our emotions are calmer. I invite you to join me in setting an intention for a time together, that we're focused, that you're present, and that your heart and mind is open to learn something new, either from within yourself, from within this conversation, or from another person who's here. I affirm that this is a safe and a sacred place to be. It is a place where you are free to explore, to let go, and to invite your higher power to have its way with you. And I invite you to open your eyes whenever you're ready. And that completes our opening meditation. So for this first webinar, I'd like to just take a moment to tell you a bit of my story. I was raised in the Detroit area, blue-collar neighborhood. Grew up in a family that was very much immersed in codependency, had addictions. Not so much in my household, but in my aunts, my uncles, grandparents. It was definitely in the family system. I myself, pretty early on, took quickly the drug of choice, became sex addiction, later on relationship addiction. So even in my high school days, my early teen days, the sexual experiences definitely had that addictive high to them. And it got worse and worse until in my mid-20s, like 24 years old, I landed in a treatment center because I got to, in my 20s, ended up combining drugs and sex together, which is super toxic cocktail for me, and was really on a death spiral. So this treatment center up in Val-David, Canada, private treatment center, brought all addictions together. It wasn't just for sex healing or relationship healing. It was everything, everyone, heroin, alcoholism, codependency, everyone was together. And it was so spiritual. It was one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had. I thought every treatment center was like this. I was 24. I didn't know that from anything different, but I discovered there, this is what they said to me. You need a higher power, a God, whatever word you choose. It has to be bigger than your addiction, and it has to be bigger than your trauma. Otherwise, you're not going to use it. When you get triggered, when the cravings come in, if you don't have a larger, higher power, you're going to lose every single time. And then they helped me see how broken my higher power really was, or my concept of my higher power. The pain around God, being raised Catholic, my sexual orientation is gay, and felt a lot of shame, a lot of fear, really thought I was going to hell for being who I was, a lot of self-rejection. And so that was all wrapped around this thing called God. And I just, my God concept was external, male, white, punishing, scorekeeping. I'm guessing some of you can relate to that. In this 30-day program, so much of that was analyzed. They created ways for me to really look at this and challenge it and create a new higher power concept that worked, which is of course what the 12 steps say. They say your understanding of God, whatever that is for you. But I never took the time to figure that out, and I never took the time to challenge the existing one, and I didn't take the time to create a new one. 24 years old, that's the journey that I began. So I left that place absolutely on fire for spirituality. I'm so grateful for that. And it literally created a whole career, a lifetime of, I work in the world of spirituality, and I have for decades. And I just feel beyond blessed to be alive. And I feel beyond blessed to help other people get insights and have healings. I really do believe that addictions, it is said in the big book, that addiction is a spiritual disease, which means we need a spiritual solution. You have a spiritual disease, you need a spiritual solution. Makes sense intellectually, but the journey of for each of us, it's different. And the individual exploration that's required in this area, although I loved all the 12-step meetings, it never was guided enough. There wasn't enough help for me, but I found it in other places and other ways. So I bring all of that to you this evening with a lot of love and a lot of passion and deep respect for your journey, wherever you are. Wherever you are in this journey, there is zero, zero, zero judgment here. I promise you that. So my focus today is on the idea of how is this a spiritual disease? What exactly does that mean? So for me, when I think of spirit, your spirit, I think of what are the qualities of spirit. And I hope if you've got journal and pen or paper, it's a great time for you to be taking some notes and exploring this, although you can come back and listen to this later also. So your spirit is, to me, and as I teach it, is filled with your joy, your passion, your creativity, your purpose, ideas, inspiration. These are words that we use often, but these I've come to know as the qualities of your spirit. Your ability to love is an expression of your spirit. When you create something, whether you're at work creating a new program or a new structure, or you're painting a painting, anything from the arts to just when creativity is activated. If you're in your home organizing a closet, it requires an expression of creativity. So creativity is an aspect of your spirit, and your ability to feel a sense of joy, a sense of well-being, not a manic happiness kind of thing. I mean, we all desire to be happy. I'm not talking about just happy. I think of joy as more of a kind of a state of well-being and feeling good, feeling connected inside yourself, whatever's happening. And these are aspects when we're feeling them, when we're connected to them. And there's other expressions of it, expression of freedom, expression of abundance. There's so many words that represent it. I think of this as this is like an energetic or a spiritual body that is made up of these qualities. They're natural. They're yours. We all have them. Addiction feeds off of that. That when your spirit dies, what it really means is you've lost your ability to create. You've lost your joy for life. You've lost your sense of passion. You've lost your sense of well-being and your ability to really love. We've lost the addiction eats away. I like to think of it literally lives off of your spiritual powers, if I can use that word. Think about that for a minute. The love, when you're feeling healthy and flowing, you love bigger, you receive love better. When we're in our addiction, when we're using or we're acting out or we're in a codependency or we're in some relationship addiction that's sucking our soul out, it's literally killing our spirit. And whatever addiction it is, I really believe that when the addiction has eaten up so much of the spiritual qualities to where there's no sense of self, there's no sense of purpose, there's no joy, and we're literally living off of the highs of the addiction, losing ourselves more and more and more, that's when it becomes dangerous. And that's where a good number of addicts have died. They've died in different ways of expression, either through using or whatever. But really, even at the center of that lives the death of their spirit first. Depression, all of these things are pointing to our spirit no longer feeling alive, being vibrant, and being available to us. So a spiritual disease kills the spirit, kills our joy, kills our worth. I'll use these words over and over and over because I want you to really get that and understand that. So when we get into some kind of recovery, what we're really doing is our mind is beginning to heal, our body is beginning to heal and get back into balance, but it's our spirit that really starts to come back to life. I think of it like, those, we're coming out of the holidays. So those big blow up things that people put on their lawn? They're when this, think of them as losing their air. You'll drive down the road and you'll see some that didn't make it through the night and they're just collapsed.
Yes.
That's like our spirit collapsed. And so when we do recovery, it's slowly filling that back up until it's back into full expression. That lives inside of us. When your spirit is alive and healthy, you're able to connect. Like I said, you're able to give, you're able to receive, your ability to compassion, forgiveness, care. These are things that flow from our spirit, and or flow from our heart is another way to think about that. These things become healed and you return to your sense of self, your spiritual self. So how am I tracking on that? Is that making sense?
Yes, I'm taking notes. So
Wonderful, wonderful. So as I'm talking about this, I really want everyone to just think about that. How, we can take an inventory of the ways that addictions have taken their toll on our life. They cost us money, they cost us this job, they cost us this relationship. There's lots of things of this world, for sure, that the addiction destroys in all directions. But to really pause and say, what did it cost my spirit? How am I moving through life? How am I feeling? Am I walking depressed? Do I feel like that blow up that is actually collapsed and not filled with air? Here's the great, great, great news. And this is what's phenomenal about recovery, the 12-step program or other forms of recovery. The body can rejuvenate itself, heal itself, and get back to a nice state of well-balance, depending on how much destruction happened to it, or come back to normal. Your spirit always can come back to life. Your spirit, and that's why they can say, no matter how far down the scale you have gone,
right,
you can recover. And what that means is no matter how spiritually bankrupt you have gotten, your spirit always will heal itself back. It will always come back to a full expression. And that's where the healing takes place. That's when you really come alive. And one more thought, that's one of the most magnificent gifts of being in recovery. Y'all, most people don't even contemplate these questions. I'm so grateful for addiction because it has brought me into myself, discovering myself, exploring myself in ways that people who aren't addicts, my family members, people that are, not in recovery, they don't have to question. I don't know. It's their business. I don't go on their side of the fence. But what I know is on my side of the fence, my self-awareness and today the love of my spirit is, I wasn't taught any of that in my life. That all came from 12-step recovery. That all came from being in recovery. So those are some of my thoughts for now. I think that brings the topic, the conversation, to a close. I would like to invite you now, if you have a journal or paper and pen, that'd be awesome. But even just a little moment, we're just going to go within and we're going to ask a few questions. And when you ask a question inside yourself, you really want to just listen. Don't think for the answer. Just stay inside yourself. I'd rather you not get an answer than try to figure out something in this little guided experience, like 2 to 3 minutes of looking and at the question of, what has addiction cost me in terms of my spirit? And I'll just ask you some prompting questions, and I invite you to just explore that with me. Yes?
yes.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to open it up for some sharing. I'm going to close my eyes again. I'm going to invite you to do the same if you can. If you're in a place where you can't close your eyes, don't worry about it. You can still be thoughtful. Take a nice deep breath, because I just said a lot of information came at you. So use your breath to pull it in and allow it to, settle inside of you. And imagine your attention coming into your heart space. You can even place your hands on your heart or on your chest to bring your attention here. And I like to ask my heart these thoughtful questions. I say to myself, to my heart, please show me the ways that addiction has caused harm or cost me in the area of my spirituality, my spiritual qualities. And just listen. Allow yourself to go on an inner journey. How has my spirit been harmed because of addiction? I know that addiction has cost me a lot of spiritual um, energy and power, and it's taken a lot. It's taken its toll. I ask my higher power to show me examples of that in my life. Show me how, specific ways, give me images of myself through time where my spirit has been harmed. Show me the ways, the specific ways it has expressed in my life. Keep your focus. Keep looking for images and stories and examples inside yourself. Once again, if you can, bring your hands to your chest, to your heart, and just take a moment within yourself to speak to your higher power. And even repeat after me. Higher power, God, thank you for carrying me through these hard times. I ask that you help my spirit be renewed. I ask that you revive my spirit in any ways that it's been dampened or diminished. I ask, higher power, that you bring my spirit back to full life. Reconnect me to my creativity. Reconnect me to my ability to love myself and others. Reconnect me to the ability to be fully present for myself and others. Reconnect me to my natural state of joy and well-being. Higher power, heal my spirit. Breathe that in. That's an invitation. That's a prayer. It's an asking for help. And you can bring yourself back to the room you're in, opening your eyes whenever you're ready. And I'll just share with you a real cool thing that came to me, for example, while I was inward, and this was not planned, was I saw myself younger in all these like parties and different gatherings of people where instead of being in myself and being fully present who I was, the addiction had me looking at other people and wondering who's who and feeling not good enough and you know, outside of myself, not inside myself, just being my spirit, enjoying the people I was with. I was always in crowds of people or gatherings of people, unable to be present. Being present is a spiritual quality, unable to just be alive and be happy and be with what was there, because I was always disconnected. And the addiction had me looking and exploring, and just the craziness that it would do to me. That was a real clear example of how many times have I been with people, friends, family, at parties or small gatherings, even one-on-one, where the addiction had my attention focused externally, trying to get something or notice something or be sexy or be this or give that or whatever, versus just being present and being in my own state of joy. I can't count the amount of times. That's just a nice example of that. And we can always ask, like we did at the end, whatever thoughts came to you, we can always say, higher power, heal my spirit. Such a beautiful prayer. So those are my thoughts for you today, for us today. And I'd love the opportunity to open it up and see how we're tracking, what's coming to you, what questions you have, or what insights did you gain from this conversation.
So if those of you that have joined us are willing to, you can do the little raise your hand thing, and I will turn off the recording and make this so you can interact with us. Or you can just share through the Q&A or chat at the bottom if you'd rather not. And you don't have to share your camera. You can share your microphone too. But we'll see how this goes. So it was interesting because my visual was like a giant plug being unplugged. So I was so disconnected from myself and from everyone else. There would be this image of myself that I was showing to people, but kind of like you, trying to be this image that I wanted to project rather than being my true self. And I think probably the biggest thing that I lost, I don't even know if I had it, honestly, a whole lot before I got into recovery. It's the gift of recovery, is my self-esteem. It's like, I so didn't value myself or think I had worth. And I think I probably struggled with that before I, really got full blown into addiction. But wow, it was one of the gifts, of the program. And my favorite step is the 12th step, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. And I know this isn't a 12-step meeting, so I get it. But that is the only thing that we're really promised. It's like all the other stuff is just kind of, but sure, we want to lose the addiction, but if we do all the things that are suggested in programs, then the result is we have a spiritual awakening with a higher power, which for me is a very different higher power than the one I was raised with. It wasn't Catholic, but it was, a very strong conservative, and punishing, and so of course I didn't live up to any of the right things. So wow, I was in super big trouble. So the higher power of my recovery has been so gentle and loving, and that was great. So the comment is, I lost time. Lots of exclamation points. I hurt my body. I stifled my potential. I hurt others. I loved conditionally. Wow, that's a powerful one too.
Yeah, for sure. The loss of time, I stifled my potential. I think potential is a spiritual quality. I like to think of it that way. So that's a real nice focus. Thank you for that. And yeah, loving conditionally. The addict is out for itself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'm reading that and I'm thinking, can we even love conditionally? Because if we're loving conditionally, is it, it doesn't even feel like love. It feels it's like if you do this, then that. It's more transactional. Rather than love. So
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, though. Anybody else have things that they? Oh, I gotta get into. I grew up Mormon. This is helpful, and recently left the church. This is good. How can I tap into my higher power without feeling guilty? I'm not worshiping the right way. So,
yeah, excellent. So, thank you for that question. Many of us were raised with the idea of God being a scorekeeping God and God being something that punishes us. So if we have in our consciousness the idea of punishment, good, bad, right, wrong, and that is projected onto God, then that's a very, very scary thing. And that really does cause us to create false selves, to really lose ourselves, because who we are doesn't feel good enough to that kind of God, and it never will be good enough to that kind of God. So my invitation to you is to really allow yourself. By the way, next week I'm going to do a whole higher power experience where we're going to throw out the old God and create the new God. We're going to do a big exercise. That's for next week, a little enticing to invite you to come back. But for now, I really invite you to contemplate and consider God as, or higher power as, unconditional love. Just like the first person mentioned, she loved conditionally. Your God that you're speaking of here, when you talk about, I want to read it again. How can I tap into my higher power without feeling guilty I'm not worshiping the right way? Again, that is a conditional concept of God. So I want you to contemplate, if God really were unconditional, perfect love, only love for me, that's where the transformation is going to come into place for you. And that takes some time. I invite you to really explore, if you enjoy scripture, if that's part of your spirituality, being Mormon or whatever. Are you ex-Mormon, did you say?
It says, I grew up Mormon and recently left the church.
Oh, left the church recently. Okay,
yes,
okay.
Yeah.
So going back to scripture might be too wounding for you right now, but exploring inside yourself an idea of an unconditionally perfect, loving, all for me God could never hold anything against me, doesn't even know how. This is what your higher power truly is, and I think you know that at the spiritual level of your being. Now you need your mind healed around that, and you need the experience of that expanded within you. It takes time. For most of us, it's a journey of healing. That's like the layers of the onion. They do peel off over time. The more you spend in meditation, the more you ask your higher power, talk to your higher power. Show me who you are. Show me your unconditional acceptance for me. Build a living relationship and conversation inside yourself. And that, once you get that alive in you, and you get whatever revelations look and feel like to you, no one can ever take that away from you. No religion or church or anything of this world could ever tell me who my God is. Like there's no way. Now I will tell you, much that it's in scripture, much that is out there in the world aligns with the kind of loving higher power that I have, but it's really about my actual experience of feeling loved by something that I feel inside me and all around me. It feels like spirit to me. That's what it feels. My higher power feels like a spirit that is in me and around me. And over time, the old concepts melt away and they will dissolve, and new ones will form for you. So for now, contemplate that. Commune with your higher power. Spend time saying, show me who you are just for me. Those inside invitations, they're answered. They really are. That's my experience of it. So I hope that's helpful. But those are my thoughts about that. It will happen over time. And, things like organized religions that have a lot of dogma and a lot of
rigidity.
Rigidity, yes, expectations on us. It's a form of brainwashing, and when we've been brainwashed, we have to be patient for that detoxing. It's another level of detoxing. That's a way to think about it. You're detoxing off of whatever your drug is. We're detoxing from false beliefs about ourselves. We're detoxing, releasing from ways that you have taken on false ideas about your higher power. But I promise you, I give you this with all of my being. Your higher power ain't that. It's just not. Your higher power is not keeping score on you. Your higher power is not, going, oh, you fell down. Oh, you only get one more chance. Now you have to repent in this particular way. Your higher power is just loving you and supporting you, and really, really so beautiful. I hope you can join me next week, because I promise you're going to get a lot more exploration in that area.
For me too, I read a lot of the, I don't want to just point to it, but like the Norman Vincent Peale, the really positive messages. But so a little plug for Guidepost magazine. I've read that one since I got into recovery, and it's like non-denominational. It's just this, it's good and kind, and and there's a lot of spirit stuff. And I'm with you, I really find that the spirit things, are feeling, what I was thinking too is there was a gentleman that I knew, back in West Michigan, and his countenance, I'm going to say, was joy. Like, and this guy was like, I knew he was spirit filled. And you remind me of him in that, Mark Anthony, because like, I just feel like there are people that are spirit filled. I'm having a hard time with words, spirit filled, and that kind of emanate joy. And I want to, to this person that wrote, I want you to know that is possible. It's, it doesn't, it isn't just about following rules and doing things right. We're human. None of us can do enough right, but understanding that we are unconditionally loved no matter what, that we're consistently striving. I've been in recovery quite a while too. And right before my 30th sobriety birthday, I did something that was like legendarily not good. I didn't relapse or anything, but I was at TSA, it didn't go well, and I was so mad at myself, because I was like, this is not how a person behaves, that is in a program of recovery. I tried to make amends anyway. So when I'm getting my chip for 30 years, I said, I wish I could tell you that the onion's all peeled back, and that, but here's the reality. And so like that story was legendary for a couple of years around that, people would refer back to that. And I was like, wow, all the good stuff I've done. And I said, as much as I don't like having to keep peeling the onion, what I have found, and I'm saying this because I want to give you hope, is that as I've peeled the onion, if I look back now, 2 years ago, I like the person I've become more now than the person I was 2 years ago. And I'm confident, if I continue on this journey, that in 2 years, I'll like that person better than I like the person now. So that's what gives me the incentive to keep doing the work and keep engaging. I think also it was just exposing myself to more stuff, and not buying into anybody else's, like you were talking about, I don't have to buy into anybody else's concept, but they can give me different lenses to look at things from. And therefore, as I'm settling it within myself, I go, that rings true for me. That rings true for me. So I can pull those concepts into myself, but without somebody else telling me, now here's what you're going to do, and here's what you're going to believe. So that was helpful for me. So
that was awesome, Tammy. Thank you. Thank you for that sharing. You know what? As you said that, I was spiritually bankrupt. I was. And I was, walking through life, lights on, nobody home. And I am spirit-filled today. I am filled with, and when you're filled with spirit, here's some of the things that I experienced different about myself. And this is one of the things along this conversation that's an example of just a healthier experience of life. I'm able to be, I don't go to shame if I make a mistake. I don't go to shame if a character defect gets activated and I act goofy or whatever, and I work now with just a lot of people. It's not easy at times being a minister with over 500 people in my community and pulling on me in all these different directions. And, whenever people, point out things or say things, I'm always able so much more to breathe it in and go, how's that true about me? yeah, I can actually see that. I don't defend. There's nothing to defend. My higher power doesn't defend, and I can more and more I take on the qualities. We more and more, as we grow spiritually, we take on the qualities of our higher power. And I'm so much less defensive. I'm so much more curious. And I'm much more able to, as a Bible quote would say, agree with thine enemy quickly. I'm always like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I was feeling bratty, or I was just not in a good place. Like owning those things previously, oh my gosh, it was like kill me before I would say, yes, I told a lie, or yeah, or yes, I was being mean. Like I would just run around like a crazy, shame makes us crazy. Today, I just seldom experience that. And I love Tammy though, and then there are those times where no matter how far down the path, once in a while, we're so humbled. And even those are precious. How will we be with ourselves in the most humbling of oopses and falling down and I just love my higher power, and my higher power adores me. I'm unashamed about that, and I'm boastful about it.
And that's a good thing. So, okay,
Yeah.
so this is a continuation. I struggle with most recovery material due to the Christian views on how we need to recover. My recovery friends are always praising the Lord and wanting to pray with me. I cannot do it. Are there non-Christian programs for guys like me? Yes, but why don't go ahead? Thoughts?
There are Christian specific meetings out there. So if you're in program, there are those, and if you're going to those, it's going to be filled with Christian language. But I invite you to explore if, there are many, many, many meetings, especially online, where they really are honoring about higher power as you understand your higher power. And, we've all heard this. I know you've heard this, Tammy. For some people, they start with their higher power simply being the group itself.
Right.
So it really is, I personally love to call my higher power God, but that's because I had such a healing around that word and I've had such a personal experience of it. But I could care less what anyone else calls their higher power. So the program really is not Christian.
Right.
It's not. I don't experience the program as Christian. I didn't experience the program as Christian back when I was 24, so maybe because if I may, I'm just taking a shot in the dark here. Maybe because that Christian doctrine is still so inside of you.
Yeah, but he's saying they're praising the Lord. So, and there are certain meetings that do, yes. But you know what? I have lots of Jewish friends that are in recovery, and they're not going to Christian meetings. So like Mark Anthony was saying, Dr. Rob does a meeting on Friday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific time, on sex addiction specifically, but intherooms.com, there's a whole bunch of meetings, and they would protect higher power. There might be a few of them that are identified as Christian, but they would, I agree, be higher power, so I would encourage you to look outside, mix up the meetings, go to some other choices. But like in the readings that we do at the beginning of ours, we talk, specifically, we're not identified with any sect, denomination, religious organization. There's no affiliation. So, we're really clear about that. So,
yeah, for sure.
And if some of them identify as, like Celebrate Recovery is a Christian oriented 12-step sort of program, they would be, but they'd be identified as that, so that you could pick that one or not pick that one depending on what you needed. But there's 12-step meetings for atheists. I mean, like that identify that they are for atheists, so they are out there. Encourage you to to look to broaden your horizons for that. And quite frankly, I want to tell you, maybe you need some additional recovery friends if that's triggering for you. That they're praising the Lord and things like that, then maybe some, that have different viewpoints or that are willing to just say higher power could be helpful too.
Yeah, yeah. Our brilliant Dr. Rob is not a Christian man. He's many, many things, and that is
Yes.
not, and that's beautiful. He does a beautiful thing in his recovery. Yeah, I'm gonna add, you're right. You're right. Thank you, Tammy. I want to add to that. You mentioned this is the same person. You mentioned leaving that faith right now. So you're shifting. You're shifting, and it can feel scary to walk away from that kind of stuff when your friends and your family, and especially that particular religion, they're so tightly focused on community and family, and this is the right way, they're the wrong way. So you're stepping out of something, and I can appreciate that you're very, very sensitive to language right now. I think I'm going to join Tammy and use my words and say, really take care of yourself right now. It probably is good to fast from the Christian language. I think it would be helpful if you can. So.
Yeah, and I really do. Even if you go, like if you're looking for S meetings, if you go to SA, SLAA, which is going to be probably a little more open, so SA, SAA, or SLAA, they have online opportunities too. So even if those meetings aren't specifically in your area, they have other opportunities that could possibly be. Oh, you live in Mexico. You know what? Rob is not seeing clients. He is working on creating a treatment program. The first will be opening in Thailand. If you go, I don't know of any CSAT therapists in Mexico, but if you go to the ITAP website, iitap.com, there are some therapists. But there's also a gentleman, and I don't know if you're looking for somebody who speaks more Spanish. I've got some resources for that. But otherwise, I'll put it in the chat. But if you email me at I can't talk and type at the same time. If you email me at that email address, I can help you find some resources. But I also know some great therapists that would, that wouldn't work with you Christian style, that work online too. So I can help you with that, is what I'm trying to say.
Wonderful. Thank you for bringing this yourself so forward. I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else for us before we begin to bring this to a close? Any thoughts, any insights from the conversation? Okay. Well, as I'm moving into the closing of this with another little bit of time of going inward, if something comes to mind, feel free to throw it up there in the chat box or something. It's nice to end with some gratitude and with an insight that you gained from the conversation to focus yourself on that. So let's do that by, again, for the last time, turning within, closing our eyes, just being here now with your breath. Exhale, feel the body relax. What was something I discovered in this time together about myself, about the program, about my higher power? Just listen. What did you discover? Just one thing. What did you get out of our time together tonight? And we take a moment to appreciate that, to appreciate this forum, this being together tonight. I absolutely know that we all grew in our recovery tonight by being together, by being here. I give thanks for the opportunity to have a conversation about higher power and spiritual qualities. And I give thanks that we are learning and knowing that we are unconditionally loved by our higher power, which is not of this world. We did not ever learn unconditional love in this world, or you might have a little bit, but the world is conditional. My higher power is not. I'm grateful to remember that tonight. and to let that fill me up. So allow gratitude to grow inside of you. Allow a gentle smile to come to your face, which is a way to seal the deal, as I say it, as we bring our meditation, our closing meditation, to an end. I just want to take a moment to give thanks to you, Tammy, for your support and your wonderful insights, and to those of you who are here tonight. I'm deeply honored. I'm deeply honored to be a part of this amazing program.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. Lots of great information that I'm going to keep settling in with. Thank you to those of you that joined us tonight. Invite others, and we'll see. You've already given us a hint of what we'll be talking about next week, so excited to hear that too.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.